How did you figure out how to price commercial properties? This is a great question. I get this question a lot. I go to their property, I'll walk the whole perimeter of the property just to see how long it takes me, and then I'll walk through all the common areas and everywhere that I need to scoop. I don't do a scooping pattern where, like, most people they'll do like a grid back and forth, right? I just walked it normally. Let's say it takes you an hour and a half to walk a property normally. I double that time because it's always going to take you twice the amount of time to actually scoop. It just takes time to scoop and to pay attention and do your grids, right? So I doubled that time and then I multiplied that by my hourly rate. Let's say your hourly rate is $60. It took you an hour to walk that property. So if it took you an hour to walk that property, it's 1 hour. Times that by 2 because it should always take you double. So that's 2 hours. And then you multiply 2 hours times 60, so that apartment would cost $120. And then at that point, you're able to do a lot of interesting calculations for the property manager. You always want to ask them how many units do they have on the property. And if you also want to ask about their waste stations, because you should do, at least I try to do a flat rate for the waste stations, $10 to $15 for each station, depending on how far that station is to like a trash can. If it's like in the middle of the field, right, that'll take you time to walk to the waste station and then walk back. But you want to ask about how many units they have on the property, right? So back to our example, if it costs $120 for that location, right? If you ask them, how many units do you have on this property? And they say 60 units on this property. So you divide 120 divided by the number of units, and it would cost that property $20 per unit to pay you for your services. And what ends up happening is most of these property managers, they're just going to put that cost to their tenants, to their residents. It's important to actually break down how much is this going to cost the property per unit so they know how much to charge their tenants. We'll talk about losing a commercial account. I made a chit chat video a couple of months ago about your word is your bond in business. This property manager reached out to me and she wanted me to service 4 of her properties. They asked for a bunch of things, but mostly she asked for pictures of the property every time we found poop in the yard, along with like the general location, because they have DNA testing for their tenants. Another third party who goes to their property, they pick up these poop samples and then they send those poop samples to a laboratory, and they can find the genetic markup of like whose dog this is, and then they can fine their tenants for not picking up after themselves. And this property manager told me how she has tenants who pay thousands and thousands of dollars a year in fees just because they didn't pick up their dog poop and they got caught. And they didn't care. They just kept paying that fee, right? As well as providing notifications to her. I added her on Jobber, right? And she wanted twice a week service for her 4 properties. So she was going to receive 8 email notifications and 8 text messages every single week. And I felt like that was too much. Stupid me, I turned off those notifications. Serviced her property for like the whole month. I unfortunately did not take pictures of the yard like I promised, and she didn't receive those notifications. The month ends and I reach out to her just to see how things are going. She was like, things are going horribly. I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, yeah, you haven't kept any of the promises that you promised me, any of your commitments you promised me. I haven't received any pictures. I haven't received any notifications from you. And how can you tell me that you're doing a great job when my people went to XYZ property and they picked up 50 gallons of poop in their property? And I'm like, 50 gallons of poop? Like, what are you talking about? She just blew up on me. Long story short, I serviced 4 of her properties, but she had a 5th property that she didn't sign me up for, but she was complaining about that 5th property. So if I kept my proactive communication with her, they would have seen like, oh, Anthony is servicing these 4 properties. Maybe we need to onboard this 5th one. It was just a really bad experience. She was super pissed. I tried saving that relationship. I sent her a really long email. I took ownership of the situation, saying like, I messed up. We're here and we're committed to make things right and to service your property to the expectations that you had. She wasn't having it. Your word is your bond in business. You tell a customer, a prospect that you're going to do something, you really have to keep that word, because until they continue working with you over a period of time and you've built that rapport, the only thing that they can judge you based off of is the actions that you take or you don't take. And I messed up by promising more than what I can keep, and I lost that account. The crazy thing is, one of her properties is literally 3 minutes away from me. So every single day when I'm driving home from Scoops, I just see that apartment complex, and I feel this dark pit in my stomach. Ugh, why did I mess up? I'm still pissed about that, but I plan on reaching out to her in the beginning of the year, maybe after a bunch of snow, and just tell her like, hey, new year, new me. Let me scoop your dog shit.